I don't talk about analytics and software very often when it comes to marketing your small business because I personally believe it is way over discussed in way too many trainers. So you know, if I am talking about it today, it's gotta be important. So let's talk about software and analytics. Now, first things first, the reason I don't talk about these very often is because they become a bit of a trap for small business owners who end up spiraling into trying to understand analytics, not really knowing what to do with it, and spending absolute buku amounts of time not really getting anywhere. So I don't talk about it because I don't want to distract you. That said, there are 3 pieces of software that I do think are kind of important to have on your website. So let's dig in. Number 1, Google Analytics. And if you haven't updated yet, you need to make sure you are updated to the GA4 version. That is coming into effect like now. So fix that if you haven't. Secondly, I understand that there are a lot of platforms, especially the template programs, that already have built-in analytics and metrics for you to look at. I tend to find the Google Analytics metrics are a little bit more accurate. And more importantly, Google Analytics metrics are the ones that Google is looking at to determine whether or not and where they should rank your website and whether or not your website is fulfilling on what you intend for it to fulfill. So use the one that they're providing. It's free. And on that note, you should own your Google Analytics. It should be under your Gmail account or your Google Workspace account. It should not be under your marketer's account. You need to make sure you own these analytics for the lifetime of that website, because if you do have to switch down the road, Google's only going to start tracking from the moment you make that switch, not necessarily from back whenever the previous set of analytics was installed on the website. Hopefully that makes sense. Next up, and still on the Google Fan Club, you've got to make sure you have Search Console installed on your website. This is another one that is free and incredibly valuable for you. Just go to search.google.com, make sure you're logged into your Google account or Workspace account, get the instructions from Google on how to make sure it's installed on your website, and bada bing, bada boom, you can now actually see what you are ranking for on Google, what kind of click-through rate you have, how many impressions you get, etc., etc., etc. This is really helpful not only to tell if your search engine optimization strategies are actually working, because you can see what you're ranking for, which is what Google is seeing you for, and where. You can also see what you're getting clicks for and what you're not, what you may be ranking for but not getting clicks for. But this can also give you an idea of what, if you have someone else working on your website, what they're doing as well. For example, we worked with a client a year or 2 ago, and they were consistently coming up for IT managed services. In fact, the owner was incredibly frustrated over the fact that they kept getting calls for IT managed services when they were an automation implementation company, not the other way around. So when we went into Google search, we started to realize this company their website was ranked for an MSP, for an IT managed services provider in their area. No wonder they were getting a whole bunch of calls for that. Knowing that their website was ranked as an MSP on Google, we could go in and evaluate the site to see what Google was looking at as, oh, this is an MSP, and then remove that information. Within 3 months, they stopped showing up for any of those, and all of those really annoying calls disappeared. Not just that, but all the content that we're putting out consistently, we can now tell what's actually getting engagement, what needs to be refreshed for new information as it comes out, etc., and what pages on our website need to be updated because they are getting a lot of clicks but no conversions. Thirdly, I'm going to leave the provider of this last piece of software up to you. I have one that I use called Hotjar that works pretty well, but find the one that you love. But you should also have a heat map on your website. Now, this heat map will record people's mouse when they are on the website. It will be able to provide you then with an image of the website with basically a heat map on the site for where their mouse is going, because studies have shown that people tend to use their mouse to kind of look at where their eye is going. And so if we can track where their mouse goes, we can tell where their eye goes. So you can start to see if people are clicking on one thing a lot and not going anywhere, if there is an empty space on the website that people are particularly going to click on and you need to leverage that. If they are trying to search for information that they're not able to find, heat maps are incredibly valuable. Now, I really only go in there about once a quarter to look at heat maps because you don't want to end up getting lost in the data there, but they can be crazy valuable for adjusting your website based on what people are already doing. At the end of the today, way too often, small business owners start using the analytics as an excuse to avoid focusing on putting out messaging. If you're not already driving a ton of messages, you're not really going to need to be spending a ton of time looking at the analytics. If you've got 10 visitors to your website every month, don't look at the analytics. Focus on driving more traffic first. Run a PR campaign, a social media campaign, do backlinking across the board. Make sure you are getting your name out there so people want to come to the website. Once you start getting more traffic, now the analytics can be really helpful. The Search Console stuff can be really helpful in fine-tuning and tweaking it. But don't let this become your excuse to stop worrying about putting your message out there, refining your message, and driving traffic in the first place.